everyone! Welcome to my channel. This is video 8 of 400 plus advanced English word series. My step-by-step videos lead you through developing different skills you need to become a confident and fluent English speaker. Let's learn 40 plus more advanced English words so that you can step up your game. It's a good idea to watch the videos at least twice to revise and consolidate what you have learned so far. I also strongly recommend that you do the test appended after the list of words. You may find some nuggets of wisdom in the final section, so make sure not to skip it. Let's get started with our list of words. The word number 1 is hardship. Hardship is a condition that is difficult to endure, suffering, deprivation, adversity, a state of misfortune or affliction, constant toil or danger, hard circumstances of life. The word with a similar meaning is predicament. Predicament is a difficult, unpleasant, or embarrassing situation. An unpleasant or confusing situation that is difficult to get out of or solve. A difficult or unpleasant situation in which you do not know what to do, or in which you have to make a difficult choice. Another word with a similar meaning is adversity. Adversity is a difficult or unfavorable situation when circumstances or situations work against you. Another word with a similar meaning is plight. Plight is a dangerous, difficult, or otherwise unfortunate situation, a condition of extreme hardship. A plight is a situation that's hard to get out of. You'll usually hear the word plight for groups of people or animals struggling to survive or struggling for better lives. If you refer to someone's plight, you mean that they're in a difficult or distressing situation that is full of problems. For example, if you lose your job, you could end up experiencing financial hardship. An example of hardship is when you are too poor to afford proper food or shelter, and you must try to endure the hard times and deprivation. With no money and no job, he found himself in a real predicament. Other married couples are in a similar predicament. Refugees from war-torn countries encounter terrible adversity. Friends will show their true colors in times of adversity. Few of us can be unmoved by the plight of the refugees. They should direct their efforts towards relieving the plight of children living in poverty. The word number 2 is the word to subside. To subside means to become less strong or intense. To subside is to die down or become less violent, like rough ocean waves after a storm has passed, or your seasickness if you happened to be sailing on that ocean. If a condition subsides, it becomes less strong or extreme. If water, flood ground subsides, it goes down to a lower level. For example, we'll have to wait until the windstorm rain subsides. I took an aspirin and the pain gradually subsided. After his anger had subsided, he was able to look at things rationally. The police are hoping that the violence will soon subside. Eventually, the flood waters began to subside. Let's move on to the next word. The word number 3 is the verb to instill. To instill means to gradually but firmly establish an idea or attitude, especially a desirable one, in a person's mind, so that it has a strong influence on the way that person thinks or behaves. For example, we can instill confidence, faith, positive beliefs and values, discipline in or into someone. It means to impart gradually. Let me give you some examples. They hope that their work will instill a sense of responsibility in children. Parents work hard to develop or instill positive beliefs and values in their children. They have tried to instill good manners in their children from an early age. They have instilled a love of music in their children. She instilled tremendous enthusiasm into all her students. The coach is trying to instill into the players a feeling of confidence. The word number 4 is the verb to perpetuate. To perpetuate means to make something, such as a bad situation, a belief, etc., continue for a long time. If someone or something perpetuates a situation, system, or belief, especially a bad one, they cause it to continue. For instance, comics tend to perpetuate the myth that boys don't cry. This new law just serves to perpetuate inequality. Fears about an epidemic are being perpetuated by the media. Current policy only serves to perpetuate the old class divisions. Please note that we also use the adjective perpetual. Perpetual meaning happening all the time or very often, happening so often that you become annoyed as a result, occurring repeatedly, constant. For example, a lack of government funding has been a perpetual problem for the organization. The region is in a state of perpetual war. Many people live in perpetual fear of losing their jobs. We also use the adverb perpetually, which means repeatedly in a way that is annoying. For example, she's perpetually asking him for money. He's a writer who is perpetually ignored by critics. He's perpetually interfering in our affairs. Let's go on to the next word, the word number 5. The word number 5 is greed. Greed is an excessive desire to acquire or possess more, especially more material wealth, than one needs or deserves. It is a selfish desire to have more of something, especially money. When you see greed, it's an ugly thing. Whether you're observing a greedy person or the greed of a huge company that treats its workers badly in order to make more money. The word with a similar meaning is covetousness. Covetousness is a strong desire to have that which belongs to another. Another word with a similar meaning is avarice. Avarice is extreme greed for wealth or material gain. When people talk about greed, it's clearly not a good thing, but avarice has an even worse flavor to it. Avarice is often looked upon as a sin, and it's always considered despicable and evil. For example, in an era dominated by greed and selfishness, they acted with phenomenal selflessness. He was a ruthless businessman, motivated by naked ambition and greed. Because of corporate greed everywhere, he may not be able to get his idea to the market. Covetousness is mentioned in the Ten Commandments as a grave sin. He paid a month's rent in advance, just enough to satisfy the landlord's avarice. The corporate world is plagued by avarice and a thirst for power. Take heed, we also use the adjective greedy. The adjective greedy is used to describe people who are filled with greed or actions that are based on greed. The word with a similar meaning is covetous, meaning wanting to have something too much, especially something that belongs to someone else. A covetous person has a strong desire to possess something, especially something that belongs to another person. And another word with a similar meaning is avaricious. Avaricious means very greedy for money or possessions. Let me give you some examples. He was greedy for power. It was a greedy scheme to squeeze more money out of people. He looked at his boss's new car with covetous eyes. The expensive car drew many covetous looks. She turned out to be a crafty and avaricious politician. Casino owners decided that gambling sounded too avaricious, so the word gaming took its place. Take note, we also use the verb to covet. To covet means to want ardently, especially something that another person has, to long for with envy. If you covet something, you strongly want to have it for yourself. The 10th commandment forbids coveting anything that belongs to a neighbor, including his house, his wife, his servants, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to him. For example, she coveted his job so openly that conversations between them were tense. His religion warns against coveting material goods. She covets her sister's house. They're this year's winners of the coveted trophy. Let's move on to the next word. The word number 6 is consent. Consent is permission for something to happen or agreement to do something. For example, he did not give his consent for the use of his name in the advertisement. No one may use the car without the consent of the owner. We can use the same word as a verb as well. To consent means to agree to do or allow something, to give permission for something to happen or be done. For instance, her father consented to the marriage. Very reluctantly, he consented to lend me his car. The word number 7 is the word privilege. Privilege is the advantage that wealthy and powerful people have over other people in a society. If you talk about privilege, you are talking about a power and advantage that only a small group of people have, usually because of their wealth or their high social class. It is a special advantage not enjoyed by everyone. You can use privilege in expressions such as be a privilege or have the privilege when you want to show your appreciation of someone or something or to show your respect. For example, healthcare should be a right, not a privilege. Some people think they have innate privilege to oppress other people. Education should be a universal right and not a privilege. The politicians are often more concerned with status and privilege than with the problems of the people. He had the privilege of interviewing Picasso in the 1960s. It was a great privilege to hear her sing. Please note that we use the same word as a verb as well. To privilege means to give an advantage that others do not have to someone or something. To privilege someone or something means to treat them better or differently than other people or things, rather than treat them all equally. For example, they are privileging a tiny number to the disadvantage of the rest. The new tax laws unfairly privilege the rich. Let's move on to the next word. The word number 8 is the word strenuous. Strenuous means requiring a lot of physical or mental effort or energy. A strenuous activity or action involves a lot of energy or effort. It is arduous, demanding, vigorous, energetic, or zealously active. Something strenuous requires all your effort and strength, like a hard workout at a gym or carrying a backpack full of heavy books. Let me give you some examples. His doctor advised him not to do any strenuous exercise. The proposal has faced strenuous opposition. Strenuous diplomatic efforts have been made to resolve the conflict. To think deeply is a strenuous task. The job involves strenuous work and long hours. Let's move on to the next word. The word number 9 is the word to deceive. There is so much in this world in which we live that is deceiving and deceptive. Benjamin Franklin said, "Tricks and treachery are the practice of fools that don't have brains enough to be honest." That's why I'm going to provide you with several synonyms related to the entry Number 9. To deceive means to make a person believe what is not true, to trick someone by behaving in a dishonest way, to delude, to mislead. The word with a similar meaning is to trick. To trick means to deceive someone, often as a part of a plan. If someone tricks you, they deceive you, often in order to make you do something. Another word with a similar meaning is to bribe. To bribe means to give someone money or something else of value, often illegally, to persuade that person to do something you want. Another word with a similar meaning is to embezzle. To embezzle means to appropriate money that is in your care or that belongs to an organization or business you work for. Basically, it means to steal money that you have been trusted with. And we also have the word to scam. To scam means to trick someone into giving you money, usually in an illegal way. Let me give you some examples. The company deceived customers by selling old computers as new ones. What really angered her was the dirty, underhand way they had deceived her. Unless my eyes deceive me, that's his wife. You're deceiving yourself if you think he'll change his mind. His real purpose is to trick his way into your home to see what he can steal. Mike tricked the old lady into giving him $500. She was arrested for attempting to bribe a judge. He was accused of bribing a building inspector. She embezzled thousands of dollars from the charity. The company scammed hundreds of people out of their life savings. Please note that we also use the noun deception. Deception is the act of deliberately making somebody believe something that is not true. It is the action of deceiving someone, a statement or action that hides the truth, or the act of hiding the truth. The word with a similar meaning is a trick. A trick is an action intended to deceive, either as a way of cheating someone or as a joke or form of entertainment. Another word with a similar meaning is trickery. Trickery is the use of dishonest methods in order to achieve something. It is the use of tricks to deceive or cheat someone. Another word with a similar meaning is deceit. Deceit is speech or behavior that keeps the truth hidden. And we also use the word treachery. Treachery is behavior or an action in which someone betrays their country or betrays a person who trusts them. Trickery, cheating, and deceit. We can also use the word corruption. Corruption is dishonest or illegal behavior, especially by powerful people, such as government officials or police officers. Essentially, it is the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. And a similar word is A bribe. A bribe is money or a present that you give to someone so that they will do something for you, usually something dishonest. And alternatively, we can use the noun bribery. Bribery is the giving or offering of a bribe. And there is also the word fraud. Fraud is the crime of getting money by deceiving people. And it can also be a person who pretends to be what he or she is not in order to trick people. It is a person who is dishonest or a criminal. And there are other words for a fraud, such as a trickster, con artist, a swindler, cheat, crook, etc. And finally, a fraud is also a copy of something that is meant to look like the real thing in order to trick people. And we also use the noun scam. Scam is an illegal plan for making money, especially one that involves tricking people. It is any fraudulent business or scheme that takes money or other goods from an unsuspecting person. It is a dishonest scheme or a fraud. For example, he was found guilty of obtaining money by deception. Police uncovered a shocking story of lies, deception, and blackmail. It was a trick to persuade her to give him money. He likes to play tricks on the other students in the dorm. All we hear from them are lies and deceit. There are rumors of widespread corruption in the city government. He was accused of taking bribes from wealthy businessmen. Embezzlement of funds and bribery of officials continued to occur to an alarming extent. He resorted to trickery to get what he wanted. He obtained the money by trickery. He was deeply wounded by the treachery of close aides and old friends. He claimed he was a licensed psychologist, but he turned out to be a fraud. The man's a crook. He's not to be trusted. The UFO picture was proved to be a fraud. 5 people were arrested for their role in the scam and money laundering. Take heed, we also use the adjective deceptive. We use the word deceptive to describe something that is intended to or tending to deceive, to lie, to mislead, or otherwise hide or distort the truth, making you believe something that is not true. There are also some words with similar meanings, such as tricky. We can use the word tricky to describe a task or a problem or a situation requiring care and skill because it is difficult or awkward, because it is hard to deal with or complicated. Or we can also use the word tricky to describe a person who is deceitful or crafty. Another word with a similar meaning is crafty. Crafty means good at getting what you want by clever planning and by secretly deceiving people. A crafty person is cunning, sly. And we can also use the word shady. Shady means secret and probably dishonest or illegal. And another similar word is sketchy. Sketchy means likely to be bad or dangerous, not completely safe or not completely honest. We can also use the word dodgy. Dodgy means risky and suspicious, dishonest, or unreliable. And we can use the word deceitful. Deceitful is deceiving or misleading others, not honest. Someone who's untrustworthy or two-faced. We can also use the word treacherous. If you describe someone as treacherous, you mean that they're likely to betray you and cannot be trusted. If you say that something is treacherous, you mean that it is very dangerous and unpredictable. For example, we can have treacherous journey, treacherous driving conditions, treacherous waters, treacherous mountain roads, etc. And we also use the word fraudulent. Fraudulent meaning intended to deceive people in an illegal way in order to gain money, power. It means dishonest and illegal. And we can also use an informal term, crooked. Crooked also means dishonest or illegal. Let me give you some examples. Appearances can often be deceptive or deceiving. The low price is deceptive. Many fees are added to it before the purchase is complete. A tricky salesman can sell anything. Parking can be tricky in the town center. They were in a tricky situation. Beware of a crafty person who undermines your achievement at work. The company got involved in some rather shady business deals. I don't trust him. He seems like a pretty shady character. Because he's so sketchy, I always think he's up to something. They lived in a sketchy neighborhood. They got involved with a dodgy businessman and lost all their savings. The firm was found guilty of publishing a misleading and deceptive advertisement. He's deceitful, sly, and manipulative. They were not prepared to hike over such treacherous terrain. The current of the river is fast-flowing and treacherous. Corrupt leaders were chosen in a fraudulent election. It is the common belief that gambling casinos are often crooked businesses. Let's continue with our list of words. And the next word on the list, the word number 10, is the verb to overwhelm. To overwhelm means to cover or bury beneath a mass of something, such as floodwaters, debris, or an avalanche. To submerge. It also means to overpower the thoughts, emotions, or senses of someone. To have such a strong emotional effect on someone that it is difficult for them to resist or know how to react. If work or a problem overwhelms someone, it is too much or too difficult to deal with. For example, the city was overwhelmed by the flooding caused by the hurricane. He was overwhelmed by feelings of remorse for what he had done. She was overwhelmed by all the flowers and letters of support she received. We were overwhelmed by the number of applications. They were overwhelmed with work. In July, the town is overwhelmed by tourists. Please note that we also use the adjective overwhelming. Overwhelming meaning overpowering, very great in number, effect, or force. If something is overwhelming, it affects you very strongly. It is extremely strong or intense, and you do not know how to deal with it. For instance, she felt an overwhelming urge, desire, or need to tell someone about what had happened. The overwhelming majority of small businesses go broke within the first 24 months. She found the job overwhelming at first. He felt an overwhelming sense of relief when the semester was over. An overwhelming majority voted against his proposal. The task won't feel so overwhelming if you break it down into small, easy to accomplish steps. The next word on our list, the word number 11, is the verb to generate. To generate means to produce or create something. For example, energy, or electricity, or money, or jobs, or work. Or it also means to make a lot of people express feelings or opinions about something. For instance, the business is not generating enough revenue to cover its costs. The power plant generates electricity for the eastern part of the state. The new construction project will generate 300 new jobs. We need someone to generate new ideas. These changes are likely to generate controversy. The word number 12 is the verb to coerce. To coerce means to persuade an unwilling person to do something by using force or threats. To compel by force, intimidation, or authority without regard to individual wishes or desires. The verb with a similar meaning is to coax. To coax means to persuade someone gently to do something or go somewhere by being kind and patient. To influence or persuade a person or animal to do something by talking in a gentle and friendly way. When you coax someone, you try to convince him or her with pleasant words and maybe a little flattery. Another verb with a similar meaning is to compel. To compel means to force someone to do something. And we can also use the verb to oblige. To oblige means to make someone legally or morally bound to do something. Or it can also mean to help someone by doing something that they have asked you to do. To oblige is to do something you have to because you are bound by either good manners or the law. For example, abusers coerce their victims into silence. They coerced him into signing the document. He was coerced and compelled to join the gang. A confession was coerced from the suspect by police. She tried to coax a raise from her boss. He coaxed her to sing, but she refused. It took almost an hour to coax the cat down from the tree. He wanted to stay home, but I coaxed him into going out. Public opinion compelled her to sign the bill. At school, they were compelled to wear uniforms. Employers are legally obliged to pay the minimum wage. Her job obliges her to work overtime and on weekends. If there is anything else I can do, I'm always happy or glad to oblige. Please note that we also use the noun coercion. Coercion is the practice of persuading someone to do something by using force or threats, making something happen by force, like when bullies use coercion to make kids give them their lunch money. The word with a similar meaning is coaxing. Coaxing is the act of persuading someone gently to do something by being kind and patient. It is persistent, gentle persuasion. And there are also some related words, such as blackmail. Blackmail is demanding money from a person or organization by threatening them. For example, threatening to tell secrets about them if they do not pay. Another similar word is extortion. Extortion is the practice of obtaining benefit through coercion, the practice of trying to get something through force, threats, or blackmail. And we also have the word ransom. Ransom is the money that has to be paid to someone so that they will set free a person they had kidnapped. Let me give you some examples. The police used coercion to obtain the confession. The president retained power through the use of political corruption and coercion. He claimed he had only acted under coercion. After some coaxing, she agreed to sing for him. He refused to return to the game despite the coaxing of his teammates. Opponents accuse him of blackmail and extortion. When you threaten to release embarrassing pictures of someone unless he gives you $100, this is an example of extortion. An example of ransom is the money paid to a kidnapper to get a kidnapped child back. Please note that we also use the adjective compelling. Compelling means interesting or exciting enough to keep your attention completely, able to capture and hold your attention. It also means forceful and persuasive, convincing. If a reason, argument, etc. is compelling, it makes you believe it or accept it because it is so strong. For example, the novel was so compelling that I couldn't put it down. She would need a very compelling reason to leave her job. The word Number 13 is the verb to reject. To reject means to refuse to accept, believe in, or agree with something. To not agree to an offer, proposal, or request. To refuse to give someone any love or attention. Let me give you some examples. Sarah rejected her brother's offer of help. Children feel abandoned or rejected if they don't see their parents regularly. The college rejects hundreds of applicants each year. The appeal was rejected by the court. She rejected his unwelcome advances. Take heed, we also use the noun rejection. Rejection is a refusal to accept, approve, or support something. A refusal to show someone the love or kindness that they need or expect. It is the feeling that someone does not love or want you. For example, after many rejections, her novel was finally accepted for publication. Fear of rejection prevents many people from forming close relationships. Many of the counselors have themselves experienced failure and rejection as children. His proposals were met with rejection. Most people find rejection hard to deal with. Let's continue with our list of words. The word number 14 is the verb to intimidate. To intimidate means to deliberately make someone feel frightened, especially so that they will do what you want. To frighten or threaten someone into making them do what you want. We can also say to intimidate someone into doing something, which means to coerce, as with threats. For example, he tries to intimidate his opponents. Don't let those bullies intimidate you. Just walk away from them. She refused to be intimidated by their threats. They were accused of intimidating people into voting for them. The police intimidated the suspect into signing a false statement. Please note that we also use the noun intimidation. Intimidation is the act of frightening or threatening someone so that they will do what you want. Essentially, it is bullying. For instance, as the election approaches, it will be difficult to prevent voter intimidation and fraud. The campaign of violence and intimidation against them intensifies daily. This attempt at intimidation only made her more determined. Take note, we also use the adjective intimidating. If you describe someone or something as intimidating, you mean that they're frightening and make people lose confidence. For example, he's one of the most intimidating men I have ever met. Speaking in front of a large audience can be very intimidating. Let's move forward with our lesson. The next word on the list, the word number 15, is the verb to wither. To wither means to become dry, to shrivel, to fade, to decay, to become dry and weak. It can be used to describe plants, but it can also be used figuratively. metaphorically. And it also means to become weaker or smaller and then disappear. Let me give you several examples. The grass has withered in the warm sun. Public interest in the scandal will not wither away anytime soon. Farmers in the Midwest have watched their crops wither because of drought conditions. The grapes have withered on the vine. They worry that honored traditions will wither. Our hopes have withered away. The word number 16 is the verb to persecute. To persecute means to harass or annoy someone persistently, to subject someone to hostility and ill treatment, especially because of their race or beliefs. To deliberately cause difficulties for someone by annoying them often. The word with a similar meaning is to oppress. To oppress means to treat a person or group of people in a cruel and unfair way and prevent them from having opportunities and freedom. When you oppress someone, you use your authority to keep them down. If you oppress people long enough, they might decide to fight back and then decide to oppress you. For example, the country's leaders relentlessly persecuted those who fought against the regime. Human rights advocates say racial minorities continue to be persecuted. They were persecuted for their beliefs. Like many celebrities, she complained of being persecuted by the press. The country has long been oppressed by a ruthless dictator. In his speech, he spoke against those who continue to oppress the poor. The regime is accused of oppressing religious minorities. He was beginning to feel oppressed by his surroundings. Take heed, we also use the noun persecution. Persecution is the act of harassing or oppressing a person or a group of people, especially because of their identity, unfair or cruel treatment of a person or group over a long period of time because of race, religion, or social outlook. Persecution is unfair or abusive treatment towards a person or group of people, such as the persecution of someone who is different, by calling him or her rude names and making threats. The word with a similar meaning is oppression. Oppression is unjust or cruel exercise of authority or power. It is cruel and unfair treatment of people, especially by not giving them the same freedom, rights, etc. as other people. For instance, they were victims of religious persecution. They were forced to flee the country to avoid persecution. Throughout history, people have faced persecution because of their religion, race, ethnicity, political beliefs, sexual orientation, and many other factors. War, famine, and oppression have forced people in the region to flee from their homes. The people are just starting to rebuild their lives again after decades of oppression. Gender-based discrimination, gender stereotypes, and the oppression of women are still evident in the workplace. Take notice, we also use the adjective oppressive. The word oppressive is used to describe something inflicting harsh and authoritarian treatment, cruel and unfair, or tyrannical. If you describe a society, its laws or customs as oppressive, you think they treat people cruelly and unfairly. Please note that we can also use the word oppressive to describe weather conditions. If the weather or heat is oppressive, it is too hot and there is no wind. And we can also use the word oppressive to describe something that crushes your spirit, like a bad relationship or something that crushes you with its tyranny, like the oppressive rule of a dictator. For example, the country is ruled by an oppressive regime. We were unable to sleep because of the oppressive heat. The new laws will be just as oppressive as those they replace. And we also use the adjective downtrodden to describe oppressed people or people who are treated badly by people in power. Downtrodden people are treated so badly by the people with authority and power that they no longer have the energy or ability to fight back. For example, an exploited underpaid worker is downtrodden. It was a downtrodden nation during centuries of foreign occupation. He showed compassion for the downtrodden. The word number 17 is the word negligence. Negligence is failure to give enough care or attention to someone or something that you're responsible for. Failure to take proper care over something. For instance, his injury was due to the negligence of his employers. The company was sued for gross negligence after the death of the 2 employees. 3 senior medical officials were convicted of criminal negligence and fraud and were sentenced to prison. Let's move on to the next word. The word number 18 is the noun glimpse. Glimpse is a brief look at someone or something, a momentary or partial view. If you had a brief or incomplete look at something, you had a glimpse. For example, she caught a glimpse of the ocean. We got or had a glimpse of him through the window as his car sped past. Some of the fans were waiting outside the hotel to catch a glimpse of the singer. Please note that we use the same word as a verb as well. To glimpse means to look briefly, to get a brief look at, to catch sight of, to notice. If you glimpse someone or something, you see them very briefly and not very well. For example, He glimpsed at the letter and then threw it aside. He glimpsed at the headlines. She glimpsed a group of people standing on the bank of a river. Let's go on to the next word. The word number 19 is the adjective immense. Immense means extremely large in size or degree, very large in size, amount, or degree. And of course, there are also some words with similar meaning, such as huge, great, enormous, gigantic. And the words vast, which means extremely big, colossal, which means extremely large or great, copious, which means a large amount of something, tremendous, which means extremely large in size, extent, amount, power, or degree, very great, and massive, meaning exceptionally large, a large in amount or degree, enormous. Let me give you some examples. She's an artist of immense talent. An immense amount of money has already been spent on the project. Her movies continue to enjoy immense popularity. The players were under tremendous pressure to perform. She has every right to be proud of her tremendous achievements. A tremendous amount of work has gone into the project. They drank copious amounts of wine. The vast majority of children attend state schools. They were asking a colossal amount of money for the house. You can find a massive amount of information on the internet. Please note that we also use the adverb immensely, meaning to a great extent, extremely. For example, she is immensely talented young athlete. The visitors had enjoyed the game immensely. And we can also use the noun immensity, meaning the extremely large size, scale, or extent of something. For instance, the immensity of the universe is difficult to grasp. She couldn't understand the immensity of their problem. Let's move forward with our lesson. The next word on our list is the verb to confide in. To confide in means to tell something secret or personal to someone who you trust not to tell anyone else. To share your feelings and secrets with someone because you trust them not to tell other people. If you confide in someone, you tell them a secret. For example, he needed to confide in a friend. As sisters, they have always confided in each other. She confided all her secrets to her best friend. I knew she had some problems in her job because she had confided in me. They aren't people you can trust or confide in. The word number 21 is the verb to mingle. To mingle means to mix or combine, to put together in a mixture, to blend, If smells, feelings, flavors, etc. mingle or you mingle them, they become mixed together without completely losing their individual characteristics. It also means to move around and talk to other people at a social event, party, meeting, etc. The word with a similar meaning is the verb to blend. To blend means to mix things thoroughly and usually with good results. If you blend substances together, or if they blend, you mix them together so that they become one substance. Another verb with a similar meaning is to merge. To merge means to combine or cause to combine to form a single entity. To blend or cause to blend gradually into something else so as to become indistinguishable from it. And we can also use the verb to stir. To stir means to mix a liquid or other substance by moving an object, such as a spoon, in a circular pattern. And it also means to move or cause someone or something to move after being still. And we can also use it figuratively, of course, when it means to cause an emotion or reaction. Let me give you some examples. It's a story in which fact mingles with fiction. Leave the dessert overnight for the flavors to mingle. The host was too busy to mingle during the party. In a separate bowl, blend the egg and cream. Stir the egg yolks into the mixture. The breeze stirred the leaves on the tree. The bad economic news has stirred anxiety among investors. A good book can stir the imagination. The music blends traditional and modern melodies. The carpet blends well with the color of the walls. They decided to merge the two companies into one. The two banks merged to form one large institution. Please note that we also use the noun blend. A blend is a mixture of different things or styles. And another word with a similar meaning is amalgam. Amalgam is a combination or a mixture of different things. A combination of diverse elements, a mixture. And please note that we also have amalgam fillings, which are used for dental fillings. Let me give you some examples. Their music is a blend of jazz and African rhythms. It's a rich blend of the finest coffee beans. Several different styles of music come together in an unusual amalgam. Her character is a strange amalgam of contradictory traits. The language they speak is an amalgam of Spanish and English. His character is an amalgam of strength, reputation, and commitment to ethical principles. The crowd was an amalgam of young and old. The next word on our list, the word number 22, is eligible. Eligible means having the right to do or obtain something, satisfying the appropriate conditions, fit or proper to be chosen, worthy of choice, desirable, able to be chosen for something, able to do or receive something. An eligible man or woman is not yet married and is thought by many people to be a suitable partner. That's another meaning of this word. Let me give you some examples. You have to be employed 6 months to be eligible for medical benefits. You might be eligible for a grant. He was regarded as an eligible bachelor. She will be eligible to compete in the next Winter Games. The word number 23 is the verb to lodge or to file. To lodge or to file means to give something such as an official form or a legal document to someone in authority so that it can be considered, dealt with, or approved. For example, we can file a complaint, file charges, file for a divorce. We can lodge a claim, lodge a complaint, lodge a protest, etc. If you file or lodge a formal or legal accusation, complaint, or request, you make it officially. And another meaning of the verb to lodge is to provide someone with a place to stay for a short period of time. Let me give you some examples. She lodged a complaint against her landlord in court. He lodged a complaint with the city council. She has filed for divorce. She had to file dozens of forms to get a loan. The family has filed a lawsuit against the company. The workers were lodged in temporary camps. The refugees needed to be lodged and fed. And we can also use the noun lodge, meaning a house or hotel in the country or mountains for people who are doing some outdoor activity, such as hunting. We have, for example, we have a hunting or a ski lodge. For example, this mountain lodge is perfect for those looking for solitude and peace. Let's go on to the next word. The word number 24 is monotonous. Monotonous means dull, tedious, and repetitious, lacking in variety, tediously unvarying. Something that is monotonous is very boring because it has a regular, repeated pattern which never changes. The word with a similar meaning is tedious. Tedious means boring and tiring, especially because long and often repeated, tiresome, or monotonous. If you describe something such as a job, task, or situation as tedious, You mean it is boring and rather frustrating. For example, it's monotonous work like most factory jobs. The lecturer's monotonous delivery threatened to put us to sleep. Life on the farm was slow and monotonous. Students complained that the meals were monotonous. You can hear the monotonous sound of water dripping from a leaky tap. It was tedious, repetitive work. Learning a new computer program can be a tedious process. An example of tedious is the work that someone does on an assembly line. The word number 25 is the word deranged. Deranged means unable to think or act in a normal or logical way, especially because of severe mental illness. It means disturbed or upset, especially mentally, crazy or insane. For example, we can have a deranged criminal or a deranged mind or a deranged personality. Someone who is deranged behaves in a crazy or dangerous way, usually because they're mentally ill. The word with a similar meaning is delirious. Delirious is someone who is not able to think or speak clearly, especially because of fever or other illness. But it can also mean extremely excited and happy. For example, the actor was being followed by a mentally deranged fan. The plan seemed to be the product of a deranged mind. His mind had become deranged as a result of his ordeal. She had a high temperature and was delirious. A group of delirious fans were celebrating the team's victory. She was delirious with joy at the news. Let's move forward with our lesson. The next word on our list, the word number 26, is the verb to linger. To linger means to last or continue for a long time, to continue or persist, although gradually ceasing, disappearing, etc., to continue to exist for longer than expected, be noticeable, etc., for longer than is usual or desirable. It also means to stay somewhere for longer because you do not want to leave, to spend a long time doing something. The word with a similar meaning is the verb to drag on. We use this word to describe a process or situation continuing for longer than you want or think is necessary. Something that takes a long time or progresses very slowly. If an event or situation drags on, it continues for too long. And another verb with a similar meaning is to languish. To languish means to exist in an unpleasant or unwanted situation, often for a long time, to continue for a long time without activity or progress in an unpleasant or unwanted situation. If someone languishes somewhere, they are forced to remain and suffer in an unpleasant situation. For example, such bad habits still linger among the students. The smell of fish lingered in the kitchen. The Civil War lingered on well into the 1930s. We lingered over breakfast on the terrace. She lingered in the yard, enjoying the warm sunshine. The dispute between the two families dragged on for years. The case dragged on for 3 years before the clubs reached an agreement. Negotiations have dragged on longer than expected. She languished in obscurity for many years until the success of her novel made her famous. He's an innocent man who has been languishing in prison for years. Many refugees languish in camps without a permanent place of settlement. The word number 27 is unprecedented. Unprecedented means never done or known before, unparalleled, unmatched, unrivaled. Something that is unprecedented is not known, experienced, or done before. For instance, this century has witnessed environmental destruction on an unprecedented scale. Unemployment has reached an unprecedented level. The team has enjoyed unprecedented success this year. He took the unprecedented step of stating that the rumors were false. Crime has increased on an unprecedented scale. This event is unprecedented in recent history. The word number 28 is the noun havoc. Havoc is great disaster, great disorder and confusion, devastation or total mayhem, great destruction and devastation, as that resulting from hurricanes, wars, etc. It is a situation in which there is a lot of damage or destruction, or in which something cannot continue in its normal way because of problems. The word with a similar meaning is annihilation. Annihilation is complete destruction or obliteration, devastation. And another word with the same meaning is obliteration. Obliteration is the total destruction of something so that nothing remains of it. And we also use the expressions to wreak havoc, to cause havoc, create havoc, or play havoc, which means to cause great damage. And we can also say to annihilate, which means to destroy something completely so that nothing is left, to devastate. Or we can say to obliterate, which means to remove all signs of something, either by destroying it or by covering it so that it cannot be seen. For example, the storm wreaked havoc in the garden, uprooting the trees and blowing a fence down. A powerful tornado wreaked havoc on the small village. The policies would wreak havoc on the country's economy. The blackout caused havoc in the city. The disease can play havoc with the body's immune system. Several small children can create havoc in a house. Rioters caused havoc in the center of the town. The recent storms have wreaked havoc on crops. The approaching tornado was annihilating everything in its path. The fear of nuclear war and annihilation of the human race overshadowed all others. The hurricane virtually obliterated this small coastal town. The memory was so painful that he obliterated it from his mind. As individuals, our survival or obliteration is dependent on how connected we are with the world. Let's move on to the next word. The word number 29 is the verb to shed. This verb has several different meanings. First of all, we can say to shed tears, which means to weep or cry. And we also say to shed blood, meaning to spill blood, to kill or wound someone. Another meaning of this verb is to shed, to cast or throw light on something, which means to make a problem, etc., easier to understand. Or shed can also mean to get rid of something that is not wanted or is no longer necessary. When a tree sheds its leaves fall off in the fall. When an animal sheds hair or skin, some of its hair or skin drops off. Let me give you some examples. So much blood has been shed in this war. She shed a few tears at her daughter's wedding. Recent research has shed new light on the causes of the disease. She was determined to shed some weight and get fit. Some of the trees were already beginning to shed their leaves. A snake was shedding its skin. He's keen to shed his bad boy image. Please note that we use the word shed as a noun as well. Shed also means a small building, usually made of wood, that is used for storing things such as garden tools. It is a hut or a shack. For example, we keep our bikes in the shed. The word number 30 is the verb to squeeze. To squeeze means to press something firmly, usually with your hands. to press in order to extract liquid, juice, etc. So we can squeeze water from a sponge. We can squeeze oranges, etc. But it also means to fit into a small or crowded space or time span, to get through or into a small space. The word with a similar meaning is to crush. To crush means to press something very hard so that its shape is destroyed or so that it breaks into pieces. This verb can also be used with another meaning. We can also crush a protest or movement or a group of opponents. In this context, it means to defeat it completely, usually by force. We also use the expression to crush one's spirit, which means to break someone's spirit, to destroy someone's sense of self, of who they are, to make someone feel worthless, to cause overwhelming emotional pain to someone. If you are crushed by something, it upsets you a great deal. Let me give you several examples. His father squeezed his hand and wished him luck. He squeezed the juice from the orange. She squeezed out some ketchup. He tried to squeeze 3 suits into a small suitcase. Passengers were trying to squeeze onto the bus. The doctor will try to squeeze you in between appointments. Sugar is obtained by crushing and processing sugar cane. Crush the nuts and sprinkle them on top of the cake. His leg was crushed in the accident. The king sent out his special forces to crush the rebellion. A string of bad luck had crushed his spirit. Listen to criticism, but don't be crushed by it. We also use the word crush as a noun. It is used informally to denote a strong but temporary feeling of liking someone. For example, she has a crush on one of her teachers at school. Let's move forward with our list of words. And the next word on our list, the word number 31, is luxurious. We use the word luxurious to describe something that is of very high quality or expensive taste. Very comfortable and expensive, characterized by luxury, opulent, lavish. If you describe something as luxurious, you mean that it is very comfortable and expensive. For example, this is one of the country's most luxurious resorts. They enjoyed a luxurious suite with a crystal chandelier and thick oriental rugs. She can maintain a luxurious lifestyle by herself without his financial support. We enjoyed relaxing spa treatments in luxurious surroundings. Please note that we also use the noun luxury. Luxury is something expensive which is pleasant to have, but is not really necessary. It is a state of great comfort or elegance, especially when involving great expense. Opulence, something that gives you a lot of pleasure but cannot be done often. For instance, he enjoys luxuries such as champagne and caviar. A day off work is such a luxury. Right now, a new car is a luxury that he can't afford. Foreign travel is still an expensive luxury that many cannot afford. The word number 32 is the verb to exceed. To exceed means to be greater than a number, degree, or amount, or to go past an allowed limit. To be more than or greater than, to go beyond expectations, to surpass others, to outdo. The verb with a similar meaning is to outshine. To outshine means to be much more skillful and successful than someone else. To be much better than someone in a particular area. And another verb with a similar meaning is to transcend. To transcend means to rise above or go beyond the limits of, to triumph over the negative or restrictive aspects of, to overcome, to surpass a person or achievement. For example, the success of our campaign has exceeded our wildest expectations. Drivers who exceed the speed limit can expect to be fined heavily. Their accomplishments far exceeded all our expectations. Customers who exceed their credit limits will be charged a fee. She outshines all the other actors in the movie. They're determined to outshine their competition. He doubts that he will ever transcend Shakespeare. She was able to transcend her own suffering and help others. Music transcends cultural boundaries. The underlying message of the movie is that love transcends everything else. Please note that we also use the adjective exceeding, meaning very great, exceptional, or excessive. For example, his exceeding politeness masked his annoyance. He treated her with exceeding deference, rose reverently to open and shut doors for her. And we also use the adverb exceedingly, meaning to an extreme degree, extremely. For example, the crime rate is exceedingly high. The children were doing exceedingly well in school. Let's move on to the next word. The word number 33 is stranded. To be stranded means to be left helpless, abandoned, left without the means to move from somewhere, lacking what is necessary to leave a place or to get out of a situation. Anything left behind or stuck can be called stranded, like a stranded fish in a tidal pool or a stranded child at a fair. For example, he left me stranded in town with no car and no money for a bus. During the storm, stranded passengers slept at the airport. He was stranded in the middle of nowhere. The strike left hundreds of tourists stranded at the airport. The convoy was stranded in the desert. The word number 34 is the verb to arise. To arise means to emerge, to happen, to begin to occur, or to exist. If a particular situation, opportunity, or problem arises, it begins to exist or to develop. For instance, should the opportunity arise, I'd love to go to the Philippines. We can have another meeting if the need arises. These problems arise when people try to avoid responsibility. Some confusion has arisen as a result of a new system. I'll speak to him if the occasion arises. Call this number if any unforeseen emergency should arise. Please note that we also use the verb to arouse, but the verb arouse has a completely different meaning. So don't mix up these two verbs. To arouse means to evoke or awaken a feeling, emotion, or response. To stir up, to awaken, to stir to action or strong response. For example, a new idea might arouse your imagination. A sneaky look might arouse your suspicion, etc. For example, the report aroused a great deal of public interest. He works hard to arouse his students' curiosity. Their comments aroused our anger. Their proposal is certain to arouse the opposition. He tried to sneak past without arousing suspicion. Please note that we also use the expression on the rise, meaning increasing in amount, number, level, etc. And it also means becoming more successful, popular, etc. For example, prices are on the rise again. The water level in the lake is on the rise. She's an actress whose career is on the rise. The word number 35 is the verb to implement. To implement means to make something such as an idea, plan, system, or law start to work and be used. To carry out, to put into action, to put something into effect. For example, we can implement changes, decisions, policies, reforms, etc. For example, the government implemented a series of reforms. Attempts to implement change have met with strong opposition. A new work program for young people will be implemented. The decision will be difficult to implement. Let's go on to the next word. The word number 36 is outrage. Outrage is an intense feeling of anger and shock. Extreme anger, a strong feeling of unhappiness because of something bad, hurtful, or morally wrong, something that hurts people or is morally wrong. For instance, The incident sparked a public outrage. The decision provoked outrage from women and human rights groups. This is an outrage. I won't allow this kind of behavior to continue. Take heed, we also use the verb to outrage, meaning to cause someone to feel very angry, shocked, or upset. For example, many people have been outraged by some of the things that have been said. His comments outraged nearly everyone in the room. We also use the adjective outraged. If you are outraged by something, it makes you extremely shocked and angry. For instance, some outraged readers said the story was extremely offensive and distressing. He is truly outraged about what's happened to him. And we use another adjective as well. We use the adjective outrageous. Outrageous means shocking and morally unacceptable, offensive. If you describe something as outrageous, you are emphasizing that it is unacceptable or very shocking. Something outrageous is extreme, over the top, beyond reason. It's hard to believe and usually not in a good way. For example, the judge criticized the outrageous greed of some of the bankers. If the police came in and stole your TV, that would be outrageous. They will be punished for their outrageous behavior. The word number 37 is the verb to seize. To seize means to use legal or official power to take something, to take control of a place or situation, often suddenly and violently. It also means to forcefully take and hold someone or something with your hand or arms, to grab. And it can also mean to take an opportunity eagerly and decisively. The verb with a similar meaning is to confiscate. To confiscate means to take or seize someone's property with authority. To officially take something away from somebody, especially as a punishment. Or we can also use another synonym to strip someone of something, meaning to remove, take, or steal something from someone or something, to take something such as status or property away from someone or something. Let me give you some examples. The army has seized control of the city. Police seized the weapons and drugs. A rebel group attempted to seize power. He seized her arm to lead her through the crowd. He seized the chance or opportunity of a free flight with both hands. My father taught me to seize the day. The police confiscated weapons, ammunition, and propaganda material. The teacher confiscated all cell phones for the duration of the field trip. The court stripped him of all his property. They stripped him of all his rights when they put him in jail. Please note that we also use the verb to cease. To cease means to come or bring to an end, to end. As you can see, this verb has a totally different meaning, so don't mix it up with the verb cease. For example, the hostilities ceased and normal life was resumed. The word number 38 is the verb to contend. To contend means to compete in order to win something, to compete for something, to struggle in opposition. It also means to deal with something difficult or unpleasant, to cope with. The verb with a similar meaning is to clash. To clash means to fight or argue, to meet and come into violent conflict. Beliefs, ideas, or qualities that clash with each other are very different from each other and therefore are opposed. And we also use the verb to feud. If one person or group feuds with another, they have a quarrel that lasts a long time. Let me give you some examples. The team is expected to contend for the championship this year. They had to contend with the enemy for control of the port. At the age of 9, he had the death of both parents to contend with. He's had a lot to contend with recently. Police and protesters clashed yesterday. The brothers often clash over politics. So many of his ideas clash with mine. The estate is not settled because the family is still feuding over the will. Please note that we also use the word clash as a noun. Clash means a violent confrontation, a fight or argument between people, a conflict, opposition. And the word with a similar meaning is feud. Feud is a prolonged and bitter quarrel or dispute, an angry and sometimes violent argument that has continued for a long time between two people, families, or groups. For example, a clash between rival gangs has resulted in some serious injuries. Several protesters were injured in a recent clash with the police. We have a personality clash. Because of a family feud, they did not see each other for a decade. Let's move on to the next word. The word number 39 is the verb to devalue. To devalue means to underestimate the worth or importance of someone or something. To cause someone or something to be considered less valuable or important. To treat someone or something as if they're not important. We also use several words with a similar meaning. To belittle. To belittle someone means to make someone or the things that someone does seem unimportant. To make a person or an action seem as if he, she, or it is not important. To Denigrate means to say that someone or something is not good or important. To downplay means to make something appear less important than it really is. To discredit means to cause people to stop respecting someone or believing in an idea or person, to harm someone's reputation. To discredit someone or something means to cause them to lose people's respect or trust. And to disgrace means to cause someone to feel ashamed, to harm the reputation of a person or group by doing something bad or immoral. For example, she resents the way people seem to devalue her achievement. They spread tales about her in an attempt to devalue her work. People who are unemployed tend to feel devalued. She felt her husband constantly belittled her achievements. Stop belittling yourself. Your work is highly valued. We mustn't belittle her outstanding achievement. You shouldn't denigrate people just because they have different beliefs from you. The press has downplayed the president's role in the negotiations. Evidence of links with drug dealers has discredited the mayor. His remarks were taken out of context in an effort to discredit him. Her behavior disgraced the whole family. She has disgraced herself by behaving this way. Take heed, we also use the noun devaluation. Devaluation is the action of causing someone or something to be considered less valuable or important. It is underestimation of the worth or importance of someone or something. And the word with a similar meaning is denigration. Denigration is an act or instance of treating something as if it had little value or importance. And another word with a similar meaning is disgrace. Disgrace means to be so bad or unacceptable that you make people lose respect for the group or activity you are connected to. Let me give you some examples. The existence of slavery represents a devaluation of human life. He argues that there has been a devaluation of a university degree. Implanting microchips in people is a denigration of human dignity. You're a disgrace to the family. What a way to behave. I think the way she's been treated is a downright disgrace. His table manners are a disgrace. And finally, the word number 40 is the adjective dazzling. Dazzling means extremely impressive, beautiful, or skillful, splendid, brilliant. And of course, we have several synonyms with similar meanings, such as spectacular, meaning beautiful in a dramatic and eye-catching way, extremely impressive, or breathtaking, meaning extremely impressive, beautiful or amazing. Magnificent, meaning extremely good, beautiful, or impressive. Mesmerizing, meaning capturing one's complete attention as if by magic, extremely attractive or interesting in a mysterious way, captivating or fascinating. And we also use the adjective exquisite, meaning extremely beautiful and delicate. Something that is exquisite is extremely beautiful or pleasant, especially in a delicate way. And we also use the adjective stunning, which means extremely attractive, beautiful, or impressive. Let me give you some examples. She wore a dazzling diamond necklace to the gala event. The orchestra gave a dazzling performance last night. We had a spectacular view of the coastline from the plane. The sunset on the cliffs close to our house is spectacular. The view from the top of the mountain is breathtaking. They gave a breathtaking performance. The view from the top of the mountain is magnificent. The carnival was a magnificent spectacle. Their performance was mesmerizing. The costumes for the dance performance were exquisite. They sell good coffee and pastries, but their chocolate is exquisite. Our room had a stunning view of the lake. You look absolutely stunning in that dress. And we have gone through the list of new words for this lesson. I also prepared an exercise for you so that you can practice the words we have learned until now. This approach should help you to integrate new words into your speaking, writing, and comprehension. Check your progress and do the exercise below. Today, our topic is modern slavery, slave labor, human trafficking, and social ostracism. What do you think about this sensitive topic? Now it's your turn. Grab your pen and paper, pause the video, read the following text carefully, and fill in the blanks. Complete the text with the correct words from the box. These are the words from today's as well as previous lessons. The text is on the lengthy side, so feel free to divide the exercise into smaller parts and complete it at your own pace. time is up. I hope you managed to fill in all the gaps. Now is the time to check your answers. Here are the correct answers. Number 1, exploitation. Number 2, perpetuated. Number 3, greedy. Number 4, oppressive. Number 5, unprecedented. Number 6, privilege. Number 7, oppressed. Number 8, devalued. Number 9, deprived of. Number 10, downtrodden. 11, monotonous. 12, glimpse. 13, generates. 14, negligence. 15, vulnerable. 16, tremendous. 17, violations. 18, to flourish. 19, coveted. 20, cramped. 21, filthy. 22, reportedly. 23, confiscate. 24, facilitate. 25, excessive. 26, confined to. 27, lavish. 28, massive. 29, luxurious. 30, dazzling. 31, seized. 32, are compelled. 33, gloomy. 34, are squeezed into. 35, exceeding. 36, have been obliged. 37, file complaints. 38, stranded. 39, generating. 40, immense. 41, coercion. 42, outraged. 43, combating. 44, lured. 45, affluent. 46, vulnerability. 47, vulnerable. 48, desperate. 49, intimidate. 50, coerce. 51, lodged. 52, persecution. 53, plight. 54, bribe. 55, corruption. 56, atrocious. 57, enticed. 58, deceived. 59, commodity. 60, shed. 61, untangling. 62, consent. 63, coercion. 64, confide in. 65, trickery. 66, deceptions. 67. Amalgam. 68. Mingle. 69. Deranged. 70. Wreak havoc. 71. To wither. 72. Overwhelming. 73. Drag on. 74. Strenuous. 75. Arise. 76. Seize. 77. Eligible. 78. Crush. 79. Instill. 80. Detrimental. 81. Rejection. 82. Rejected. 83. Exposure. 84. Associated. 85. Degradation. 86. Persecution. 87. Subside. 88. Content. 89. Stems from. 90. Will fuel. 91. Clashes. 92. To capture. 93. To shed. 94. Implement. 95. Outlook. 96. Ostracized. 97. Stranded. 98. Predicament. 99. Hardship. And 100. Empathy. How did you do on the test? What was your score? Let me know in the comments. And if you wish to support this channel and see more incredible content, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you so much for your support and sharing this journey with me. Stay tuned and keep practicing. See you soon.